Welcome and bienvenue to our participants today. We thank you for joining us for the Workforce Adjustment Town Hall. My name is Catherine Gagnon and I'm part of the member engagement team at PIPS. Aujourd'hui, nos panélistes discuteront du réaménagement des effectifs de la manière dont l'Institut soutient ses membres grâce à des ressources et des outils clés, à un soutien sur le lieu de travail, à des comptes rendus réguliers et à une campagne publique mettant en avant les contributions de nos membres au système essentiel dont dépendent tous les Canadiennes et Canadiens. Today, our panelists will be discussing workforce adjustment, how PIPS is supporting members with key resources and tools, workplace support, ongoing updates, and a public-facing campaign highlighting our members' contribution to critical systems Canadians depend on. You will also have the opportunity to ask our panelists questions. Please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the Zoom screen to do so. To begin, we'd like time to respectfully acknowledge that our office located in Ottawa is on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabes Nation. Before this land was a city, it was and remains a place for the Algonquin Anishinaabe people whose presence here reaches back 8,000 years. As settlers, it is our responsibility to educate ourselves on the history of the First Peoples, to learn how to be respectful of their culture, to acknowledge their pain and our part in it. If you've started the journey of learning whose territory you work and live on, we invite you to make that acknowledgement in the Q&A. At the beginning of our webinar, we like to provide you with our equity statement, which clearly outlines our expectations from participants. If you could please take a moment to review the statement, the link is in the chat box. As noted, the Professional Institute of the Public Service of Canada strives to create a climate that is respectful, safe, and inclusive, where we are all welcome and valued, and where we are supported to make our contribution and support others to make theirs. We thank you for being part of this inclusive space. Now let's go over some key information about Zoom. Due to the size of the group, we have muted your computers to ensure we have the best sound quality for everyone participating and for those who will watch later. Please use the Q&A icon in Zoom to send a message to us if you have any questions or technical issues during the webinar. Today's webinar has simultaneous interpretation so that English and French-speaking members are able to participate. We will be speaking in both languages, so please don't hesitate to ask questions in whichever language you feel comfortable. There is also American Sign Language interpretation accessible through the interpretation icon in Zoom. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available afterwards. Le webinaire d'aujourd'hui bénéficie de l'interprétation simultanée afin que les membres anglophones et francophones puissent y participer. Nous parlerons dans les deux langues, alors n'hésitez pas à poser des questions dans la langue qui vous convient le mieux. Ce webinaire est enregistré et sera disponible par la suite. Now we would like to introduce our panelists for today's discussion, your PIPS President, Sean O'Reilly, your Vice Presidents, Tiffany Frechette, Katie Francis, Eva Ensha, and Dave Sutherland. Welcome, everyone. Sean, would you like to start us off today?
Thank you, Catherine. Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. Bonjour à toutes et à tous, et merci de votre présence. Today's town hall is an opportunity to share information and to answer questions, and to make sure you understand what we know and what we don't know right now. Many of you are joining this town hall at a moment of real uncertainty, not just for your jobs, but for your families and your futures. What we also want you to hear clearly right from the outset is that you are not facing this alone. Your union is here and we have your back. As we keep saying in the media, these WFAs do not represent abstract changes. They affect real people like you, real livelihoods, and the public services Canadians rely on every day. PIPS has been very clear with the government and with the public that cutting public services right now is the wrong decision at the very worst possible time. We will continue to speak out firmly and publicly against decisions that weaken the public services and harm the people that depend on it. At the same time, we are defending your rights. Our collective agreements are strong and they matter. We will hold the employer to every obligation within them. We will not allow hard-won protections to be ignored, eroded, or quietly set aside. Support matters too, especially in moments like this. That is why PIPS has been taking concrete steps to support members who have been affected by workforce adjustment. We know the WFA process can be complex and overwhelming, and our goal is to reduce confusion, not to add to it. Our staff are working directly with members to help navigate uncertainty, understand options, and access the protections that do exist. We have also created a dedicated WFA task force to ensure a coordinated, union-wide response to these cuts. This task force is already doing concrete work. We have added additional staff to field WFA-related questions so members can get timely, reliable answers. We developed an alternation platform to help members explore options and plan next steps. And members are using these supports. In January alone, more than 6,000 PIPS members attended WFA webinars. We have also launched the largest public advocacy campaign in PIPS's history, because these decisions must be challenged publicly, not just behind closed doors. En français, l'Institut a déjà traversé des moments difficiles par le passé. Nous y sommes parvenus en restant informés, organisés et unis. Comme vous le savez, c'est l'union qui fait la force. Je sais que le chemin à parcours peut peut-être sembler intimidant, mais sachez que nous sommes avec vous dans ce combat. Dans tout le pays, nous expliquons aux gens les risques réels de ces réductions et ce qui est en jeu pour les services dont ils dépendent. Sur le lieu de travail, nous appliquons des protections durement acquises et tenons l'employeur responsable de ses obligations. À côté de nos membres, nous apportons notre soutien et nos conseils afin que personne ne soit laissé seul face à cette incertitude. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. If you take nothing else away from this call, please remember that there are people at PIPS working every day to make sure that you are helped through this time. We encourage you to reach out and use these supports. I'd like to thank the vice presidents for joining me today for the town hall. And I want to take this opportunity to briefly speak to them about what they're hearing in their departments and some of the work that they've tapped into. I'm going to start with Vice President Katie Francis. Katie, I know you're an SP member and you're very close to the impacts these cuts are having on science and research. Can you share what you're hearing from members right now?
Thanks, Sean. I was proud to stand with some of our scientists on Parliament Hill last month in minus 15-degree weather to rally against these cuts. People don't just show up in these conditions unless it's for something that really matters to them. And since then, I've been hearing from our scientists and our researchers who are deeply concerned about what these cuts mean for public science in Canada. Open science and transparency were already under strain, and what we're seeing now follows a pattern that's reminiscent of the muzzling of scientists under the Harper era. We cannot go back to that. All of us at PIPS are also very concerned about what these cuts are expected, how they're expected to disproportionately affect members of equity-deserving groups. That actively undermines the strength and credibility of the public service. Our union's researchers are tracking those impacts closely, and we will continue to press the government to ensure that the public service reflects the diversity of the people it serves. If you have a story to share, please get in touch with PIPS. Your experience matters, and your stories strengthen this fight. Thank you. Sean, back to you.
Thank you, Katie. En français, prochainement, vice-présidente Stéphanie Fréchette. Steph, les réductions effectuées sont vraiment inquiétantes compte tenu du rôle essentiel que jouent nos membres au sein de la fonction publique. Pour les membres qui nous écoutent, qu'est-ce qu'ils peuvent faire dès maintenant?
Merci beaucoup, Sean, et merci à tous ceux qui prennent le temps de se joindre à nous aujourd'hui. Ce que nous vivons présentement, c'est extrêmement insécurisant, puis c'est en même temps rassurant que nous soyons ensemble pour affronter cette tempête. Ce qui arrive actuellement à plus de 6 000 de nos membres, c'est inacceptable. C'est vraiment terrible de recevoir une lettre qui nous informe que nous sommes touchés. Nous comprenons à quel point les membres de l'Institut ont besoin de notre soutien durant cette période terriblement difficile et nous voulons vous aider à rendre le travail que vous faites plus visible auprès des Canadiennes et des Canadiens. Si vous le pouvez, s'il vous plaît, complétez le formulaire que vous trouverez en suivant le lien dans le chat de la réunion Zoom. Ce lien vous mènera sur une page qui est intitulée « Aidez-nous à rendre votre travail visible ». Ce que nous voulons faire, c'est de répertorier les systèmes essentiels que vous soutenez chaque jour dans vos tâches quotidiennes afin que le travail que vous fassiez, le travail si important que vous faites, soit encore plus visible auprès de l'ensemble de la population canadienne. Puis, par le fait même de tenter de convaincre le gouvernement de reculer sur ces coupures de postes qui sont actuellement prévues dans notre fonction publique. Merci, Sean. De retour à toi.
Merci, Steph. In English, I'm now going to call on Vice President Eva Henshaw. Eva, I'd like to talk about outsourcing, especially as it relates to workforce adjustment. This is something that PIPS has been raising for years with the government about spending public money on consultants while cutting its own workforce. From what you're seeing, how is outsourcing intersecting with WFA right now? And why does this issue matter at such a critical moment?
You might be on mute. I'm just going to give a few moments for Eva to fix her sound. We unfortunately can't hear you, Eva. We can't hear you. No.
Well, listen, folks, while Eva fixes her sound, I'm going to jump to...
Oh, I think we have it now.
Oh, do we have
Can
Eva?
you hear me now?
Yes,
there we
can.
go. Excellent.
Okay, sorry everyone. I guess my headset decided not to work anymore. So I'll start again. Contracting out is an important factor that needs to be closely scrutinized during and after WFA situations. Our union will be keeping close tabs on the work that is being lost by our members. The government is stating that this work is no longer required, and so therefore it should not be outsourced. We realize that some of our members are closely working, sometimes side by side with contractors, and those contractors should not be doing the same work as a member that has been affected after their position is eliminated. If contracting out is being looked at to accomplish work that our members completed, then we need to be ready to take action. This could include grievances, challenges, complaints, and meetings, depending on the situation. Training, retraining, and placement of affected employees should be considered before contracting out. The government may look for contractors to carry out this work after WFA is completed. And so our union needs to keep a pulse on contracting out now, during, and after WFA. Thank you, Sean. Back to you.
Thank you, Eva. Now I'm going to call on Vice President David Sutherland. Dave, I know you work closely with our consultation teams, and I want to acknowledge the intensity of the work that they're doing right now in support of our members. Can you give us a brief overview of how these teams are supporting members through this process and what people should know about engaging with them directly?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean. On behalf of the consultation teams, I would like to acknowledge the stress and anxiety many members are feeling right now, and to assure them that their consultation presidents and their respective teams are there to support them through these difficult situations. The consultation team consists of PIPS stewards from within your organization, department, or agency. These are your colleagues who volunteer to become stewards and are empowered to support you during this process. I encourage you to reach out to your consultation team should you have any questions, require guidance, or support. A link to your team should be available in the chat. In addition to providing advice and support to members, your consultation team represents you at Labor Management Consultation Committee meetings at all levels within your department or agency. The consultation president or their delegate represents you within your department's Workforce Adjustment Committee. The WFA committee consists of union and management representatives who are tasked with developing strategies for all potentially affected employees. I highly encourage any affected member to contact their consultation team for guidance specific to their situations. There are various options available should you become surplus or workforce adjusted, and it is essential you understand them. Your consultation teams will help you navigate these options and can connect you with additional employer or PIPS resources should you require them. And as always, all of us on this call are available should you require any further assistance. Sean, back to you.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you all for sharing your perspectives today. And the work that you continue to do for our members in support of them in this incredibly difficult time. You've now heard from your union leadership. Now we want to hear from you. This town hall is all about the question and answers, and we want to be able to get to those. I'm going to hand it back to Catherine now, and she's going to take us through the process for the Q&A and hopefully get you answers to all the questions you have when it comes to WFA. Catherine?
A big thank you, Sean. Big thank you to all the vice presidents as well for joining us today. Lots of great information for our members on WFA. Before we get to the question and answer period, we'll just do a quick feedback poll. You should see some questions on your screen. If you don't, it may be due to pop-up blockers. These polls are absolutely anonymous. It's just for us to get more information. First question, as an affected member, do you feel you have enough WFA information to make an informed decision? Second question, as an affected member, do you feel you are able to speak to someone directly about WFA? Of course, there's options in there if you're not an affected member. What additional resources or tool will be helpful to you? Those are great information. We want to be able to support you as much as possible. And would you be interested in participating in an upcoming action? We'll just give folks a few moments just to finish the poll. I see still folks are still answering. I'll just give it 4 more minutes, not 4 more minutes, a couple more seconds. Okay, well, thank you so much for everybody that answered. That information is definitely helpful for us. Now, let's go to the question. If you'd like to ask our panelist a question, please use the Q&A tool in Zoom located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We'll do our best to answer your questions now. If we run out of time or if you think of questions post-webinar, please reach out to us by sending us a message through our Ask Us form. The link will be in the chat. We also have subject matter expert with us today to assist with answering your question. We have Christine Poirier, Director of the PIPS WFA Task Force, Michael Erminsky and Dean Tonsick from the National Policy Office, and Shelley Melanson, Team Lead of Public Affairs. Please note that some of the answers to the questions today may not be applicable to everyone, as we have members today from the Federal Public Service as well as separate agencies like CFIA. So if you can, please put the group when you're asking a question. This way, it's going to allow us to provide the good information. En français, si vous souhaitez poser une question à nos panélistes, veuillez utiliser l'outil Q&A dans Zoom situé en bas de votre écran. Nous ferons de notre mieux pour répondre à vos questions, mais si nous manquons de temps ou si vous avez des questions à poser après le webinaire, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter en nous envoyant un message via notre formulaire Ask Us. Le lien va se trouver dans le clavardage. Bon, la première question. La première question en anglais. In English, the WFA process is complicated and can feel overwhelming. There's a lot of information members need to know in order to make informed decisions. Can you tell us how PIPS is supporting members and the tools and resources that are available? Christine?
Yeah, absolutely. We know that this is a stressful time for our members, whether they be affected or whether they be worried about upcoming WFAs in their departments. So what we have done so far is we've offered several webinars, both at the core public administration level, but also for CFIA, NRC. And we have recorded these sessions and posted them on our website so that folks who may not have been able to attend live are able to watch these recordings and understand the basics, as well as we've offered webinars that were a little bit more specific, whether it be for the options related to WFA or the alternation piece or the voluntary departure program and SURLO. In addition to that, we've put up several FAQs on our website, and they are labeled if they are for a separate agency. And we continue to update those FAQs weekly as we see trends of questions coming in for pieces that we may not have considered immediately. We are open to that feedback, and we constantly look to our EROs, our national consultation teams, our steward, etc. In addition to that, we developed online courses available for our stewards so that they can be our first line of defense and be able to assist all of you who may have questions. We encourage our members to turn towards stewards in their departments who may have more information about what's going on in their specific departments and be able to guide them through the process. And where stewards may not know the answer, then they can turn to staff as well. In addition to that, one of the helpful kind of starting points that you can find on our website, especially for the core public administration, is a flowchart. The flowchart kind of shows you kind of step by step where you will go. We have additional staff, as Sean mentioned, that are at the ready to answer questions related to WFA. So as you send questions, whether it be to ask us, they filter down to our WFA core team, and we have put in place a task force specifically to ensure that we are addressing the needs of our members in a timely and coordinated fashion as quickly as possible. So that's a very quick overview, but we continue to expand as we hear needs.
Thank you so much, Christine. I will go to the next question. If members need help navigating the WFA process, who are the folks that they should be reaching out to? That was part of the question. So who should folks reach out to?
Sure. Ideally, we encourage people, members, to reach out to their stewards or reach out to their national consultation teams. Most departments have a national consultation team, and they are at the table for WFA committees. And so they would have the information as to maybe when the voluntary departure program will get set up, if there is one being set up, what resources are available to them in their departments, and they'd be able to provide that kind of more granular information. But we encourage individuals to turn towards their stewards as that kind of frontline of defense, because they are in the workplace and they know your workplace. But there are EROs available should you get to a point where you need to file a grievance or you need more in-depth assistance. And you may also reach out by email to us via our Ask Us function.
Thank you, Christine. Off to the next question. We've heard about WFA committees that are in place in every affected department and separate agency. Can you explain what those committees do and how they're supporting members? Maybe Michael?
Sure thing, Kat. Hi, everybody. WFA committees are set up as a result of your collective agreement, and they're a union management committee where the union is involved in overseeing the WFA process and trying to influence it within the department. They're involved in information sharing, and the union's role is really there to make sure that the process the department's setting up is following the language in the appendix or in the collective agreement. The union also shares information from that WFA committee with members who are affected in the department. And it's also a problem-solving forum, because in any big process like this, there are going to be hiccups, and those committees meet weekly, bi-weekly, and unions can bring problems that they're seeing, systemic problems that they're seeing in the workplace, for management to address. So,
thank you, Michael. That's really helpful. Next question, just to remind folks, if you do have questions, you can use the Q&A tool in Zoom. Si vous avez des questions, vous pouvez utiliser l'outil Q&A dans Zoom. On to the next one. In our WFA information session, we receive a lot of questions about the early retirement incentives. We're not able to respond to those members because of the lack of information on the incentive. Is ERI something members should be taking in consideration as part of the WFA process, or do we know just too little at this point? Lots of ERI questions in the chat. Dean?
Thank you, Catherine, for the question. In fact, it is a matter that has garnered a lot of attention, for which we don't have much information. We're still waiting on details from the employer, and in terms of when it will be passed in the House of Commons. What we do know is that it is a temporary one-year program, essentially waiving the 5% annual yearly retirement pension penalty, which normally applies before age 60 or age 65. The eligibility is for folks age 50 and over, Group 1, so those who were hired pre-2013, or 55 and over for Group 2, hired after 2013, with 10 years of service and 2 years of pension contributions. Now, again, the timeline, it's a one-year temporary, so there are 120 days from January 26 to launch, retire within 300 days, so approximately a retirement of January 2027. We want to confirm, however, based on the information we have, that there is no other benefit to this early retirement incentive. There's no cash, severance, lump sum, just a penalty waiver. And it excludes folks from being included in the WFA transition support measure or the other options available. So this is separate and apart from the WFA provisions. And there are potential risks. So we encourage folks who want to entertain this possibility to contact our pension and benefits team or PIPS National. We're able to assist, and more importantly, the pension plan, because they'll be able to provide more specifics. But in essence, the main point we want to make is that there are no other additional benefits to the program other than waiving the pension penalty for folks who would not normally be entitled to an early retirement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jean. A follow-up question to that. Do you know if folks will be able to choose a WFA option as well as the early retirement incentive, or it's one or the other?
It's one or the other, yes. This is outside of the WFA. This is something that the government has introduced. Essentially, if you choose this option, you choose to resign from the public service and apply for your pension. So you will not be covered by the workforce adjustment provisions.
Thank you so much. On to the next question. Thank you for this meeting. Would the union provide support to the members when they're exposed to systemic discrimination and WFA is used for the purpose of elimination of those who have been discriminated? What kind of support can we provide to folks who feel discriminated in the workplace and might be affected by WFA because of this discrimination?
I can take this question. We have obviously zero tolerance for discrimination in the workplace. We advocate on behalf of our members. We encourage you to connect with your steward, with someone you're comfortable dealing with, either in the workplace, a union representative, steward, or a member of your subgroup, or contact your regional office. We provide individual specific representation depending on their circumstances, and we don't tolerate any discrimination. If there is that possibility, we will obviously advocate on your behalf.
Thank you, Dean. On to the next question. I do see a few questions in the Q&A about contracting out. How are we monitoring these contracting out issues happening in the workplace? Eva, did you want to speak on that?
Sure, I can do that. There is a website that allows us to go in and view all contracts and see the statement of work, where they are, how long they're there for, and to see if there have been bids on the work. And so how long they are, whether or not they can be renewed. There's a lot of information there that we are monitoring as well. Our consultation folks who are in meetings are constantly asking questions around the contractors that are in place. And we have our researchers at PIPS as well who are doing research around contracting out. So there's a lot of different elements at play. We have also in the past and could do now as well is an ATIP, which is requesting information about certain things around contracting out. And as well, we have had spoken at the House of Commons committees to present on contracting out and the issues around that. So those are all of our options that we'll be looking at and are looking at now.
Thank you so much, Eva. Thank you as well for all your questions on contracting out. It is a very important issue. It's great to have you here today to be able to speak on that, Eva. The next question will be in French, en français. Est-ce que PIPS est favorable au programme d'incitation à la retraite anticipée? Si oui, l'Institut met-elle de la pression sur le gouvernement pour accélérer la mise en place du programme? Cette mesure pourrait limiter les impacts du réaménagement des effectifs. Are we putting pressure on the government to accelerate this program, the Early Retirement Incentive Program?
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sean.
Non, vas-y, Christine.
Ce que je peux dire, c'est qu'on a certainement mis la pression sur le Conseil du Trésor à savoir qu'est-ce qu'ils vont faire une fois que le programme est adopté, à savoir comment ils vont le mettre en place dans les ministères, quels vont être les critères appliqués. Ça, c'est un niveau, nous, on veut plus le savoir au niveau plus direct pour les employés, à savoir exactement comment ça va se dérouler. Puis ça, on le demande au secrétariat du Conseil du Trésor chaque fois qu'on a des rencontres avec eux. On les pousse vraiment pour nous donner des détails pour pas que le programme se fasse adopter et qu'on soit ensuite pris à courir après eux pour obtenir les détails.
Merci beaucoup, Christine. On va continuer une autre question en français. Another question in French. Comment contester ces décisions? Pourquoi ne pas créer un front syndical et une grève générale? And why can't we just do a general strike right now over WFAs?
Je pense, Catherine. Écoute, les grèves, il y a des différentes manières de voir aux grèves. Et maintenant, nous ne sommes pas dans une position de demander une grève générale sans les droits qui existent dans les lois. Mais avec ça, bien sûr, nous avons une front syndical pour faire face à ça avec le task force et tout. Mais on va continuer de pousser le gouvernement fédéral. On va parler aux médias. On va mettre... probablement, on va faire des manifestations éventuellement, j'espère. Et c'est important d'avoir cette pression. Mais une grève générale, c'est pas possible maintenant, mais on verra dans l'avenir.
Merci beaucoup, Sean. Merci à vous tous pour vos questions. Just a reminder, if you have any questions, please use the Q&A tool in Zoom. We're trying to power through as many questions as possible, but our contact information is in the chat if ever we don't get a chance to answer them all. Next questions are term employees subject to severance pay when the term is not extended? Dean?
Yes. Depending on the length, if their term is ended early, they would be entitled to severance. Unfortunately, the Workforce Adjustment Directive does not apply to term employees, but they would have basic rights in terms of severance entitlement. But there are unfortunately no job protection provisions.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you so much for your question as well. Scenario: an employee's position has been deemed obsolete and they decide to leave the public service. Other employees, same group, lower level, are asked to take on certain duties the WFA employee was doing after they leave. Is that allowed?
I guess I could take that one. I mean, the employer is allowed to redistribute duties within a team that, that's part of their ongoing operational management. But where it's clear that and it depends, if they kind of said there was a lack of work and that person then continues or somebody else kind of takes the role, then there could be questions that need to be asked. But generally speaking, they are allowed to kind of redistribute, much the same way that they could just redistribute projects, even in a situation where there was no WFA. One of the things, and I think Eva mentioned that, is that we're particularly keeping our eyes on is where they may cut indeterminate employees and hire a consultant or a contractor, or move that work to a consultant or a contractor. Those are especially worrisome. If the work is being kind of just redistributed amongst ongoing employees, then it depends.
Thank you so much, Christine. I see questions here around severance pay. How can folks do the calculations of their severance pay? Where can they get that information?
The best place for folks to get, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dean.
No, go ahead, Kristen.
The best place for folks to get kind of precise dollar figures is for them to contact the client contact center of the pay center. They have your salary, they know which step you're on, and so on and so forth. This is not information that the union has, other than to kind of work out where, in terms of years of service, you'd fall on for the transition support measure. But for the severance pay, your best bet is to reach out to the pay center. They do have calculators that are specific to that.
Absolutely. And Christine, that would be for members of the federal public service, right? For the pay center?
And yes, generally speaking, but CFIA is also served by the pay center.
CFIA is also served by the pay center. Perfect. I think my colleague Niall can probably dig up the information of the pay center and put that in the chat for folks. Next question. What happens if I'm on maternity leave and I get WFA? How am I going to get notified?
I can take that one.
Oh, Michael, go.
Oh, it will vary by department. Sometimes they will receive a phone call or an appointment request to meet with the employer, a representative from Human Resources. The departments are, I think, universally following up with a letter to the employee, sometimes by email, sometimes by post. So they will get notified. There may be a couple days delay in getting that notification or having that meeting happen from when other employees are notified, though, from what we've seen.
Thank you, Michael, and thanks everybody for your question. A bit of a follow-up to that. If a member selects option B, then goes on certified sick leave, can the employer end their service while on said certified sick leave? So if somebody chooses option B but then goes on sick leave, can the employer still terminate their service? Dean, Christine?
It depends. I mean, going on sick leave is a protected right. There's the potential for a duty to accommodate. So we'd have to dig into the circumstances, but technically speaking, the employer would. I could see the employer doing that, but again, we'd have to look at the specific circumstances because the DTA provisions or Canadian Human Rights Act comes into play. So we'd have to review that carefully. So I can't give a definite answer. They can do it, but we have a right to potentially challenge it.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. There are a lot. Okay, Eva touched a bit on this earlier. Maybe you can help answer this. How can we make sure that we're not replaced by consultants? Is there something that members can do, Eva?
Yes, first of all, if you are aware of that, then definitely contact someone at PIPS. Myself, I'm available as well. And what we would do is look into it, and then we would be looking at either a challenge or a grievance at that level in order to pursue that, because that is not allowed.
Thank you, Eva. Really appreciated. Another question on relocation. Is relocation cost covered by the employer if I'm offered a job in a different city? Dean?
I'm sorry, Catherine, I missed the first part of the question.
No worries.
Yep.
Is the relocation cost covered by the employer if
Oh, yeah.
offered a job at a different location? So let's say I'm in
Yes.
Vancouver, move
Yeah.
to Ottawa.
Absolutely. Yeah, the relocation directive comes into play. So there's a whole host of benefits that are derived from the directive. What's key is obviously it's at the request of the employer. So moving at the request of the employer, including accepting a reasonable job offer, would be covered. The expenses would be covered by the employer. Yes.
Thank you. Just looking for another question here. How does the alternation option work? Who makes the final call? What is considered? What are the benefits to both party? Thank you. So how does the alternation option work? Who makes the final call? What's considered? What are the benefits to both parties?
I can answer that. I mean, generally speaking, the goal of alternation is to retain the expertise that's in the alternate's position. So the person seeking to remain employed within the federal public service will find an alternate where they can match their qualifications or their expertise and the knowledge required to perform that position. And it's the manager of the alternate that ultimately gets to make that decision by making sure that by hiring or by replacing one employee with another, that the expertise is maintained, that the criteria for the job are met, and so assuming that that's the case, that can the alternation can be approved. The other piece is obviously that generally they are done at the same level within a 6% range of salary, right? So if there's a big difference then in salary, then the alternation won't be accepted. But they can't just arbitrarily deny it for any reason. And we have heard, where folks are saying, well, they're coming in from another department. I got to protect these jobs for folks in my department. That's not a reason to deny an alternation. So should that occur, we do kind of encourage you to reach out to us so that we can address these situations on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. And we do have a follow-up question from Peter on alternation. If alternating, whose salary and years of service is the TSM based upon? The employee staying or the one leaving?
The TSM would be the person leaving that would kind of ultimately get to have that transition support measure. So it would be based on their years of service.
Thank you. On to the next question from Heather. My language levels have expired. My current position is XYZ. If I go through SURLO, do I have to meet language level of my current positions to continue employment in the role? Dean?
What we heard, so if you're in your current role, you have acquired rights. However, TBS has confirmed that in the event that in the context of a SURLO or another staffing exercise, you would have to meet the new requirements of the position. So essentially, if the language requirements are changed, you will need to meet the new requirements. So your language requirements are acquired, grandfathered in your current role, but should you leave roles, positions, and the requirements, the language requirements have changed, you would need to meet those new language requirements.
Thank you so much. We have another question here from Lan. I am in WFA. Do I have the right to discuss my departure date? For example, postponed to a few months later. Who should I ask?
Depends where you at in the status. If you only received an affected letter, well, then you're just being informed that your position may be impacted. If you received an opting letter, well, we know it's if you haven't received a guarantee of a reasonable job offer, you become an opting employee, and so you would have received an opting letter, and you have 120 days to make a decision. So again, depending on where you are in the process, there are timelines that would prevail. And if you're not sure, feel free to reach out to a steward or your regional office for more specific guidance.
Thank you, Dean. Vincenzo wants to know, is there a difference between lack of work and discontinuation of function for effective member? So is there a difference between lack of work and discontinuation of function for affected members?
You can take it. Yes, there's a lack of work. Yes, it can happen. Discontinuation of a function, for example, sunset programming, programs that you've been working that's been set for a finite period of time and it's coming to its conclusion, or the funds are no longer being provided, so that would be considered a discontinuation of a function. Lack of work, yes, that could also be depending if your work is related to a specific output, specific outcome, in terms of of the policy in place. So there are some distinctions, although it's very similar. There's still some nuances there.
Thank you. Suzanne wants to know, for a CFIA SNA member, are the PIPS contact name and number to address questions from members on WFA? I know that we spoke about this. We've put Ask Us link in the chat, but also your steward is a good point of contact. Does anybody would like to add? Contact your steward or use the Ask Us form.
I think contacting your steward or looking up your consultation team for CFIA would be the best point. We know that they are very involved and very ready to assist members at CFIA.
Okay, we have a question that will be in French de Jérémy. Pourquoi les années d'expérience à la fonction publique ne sont pas considérées dans la sélection des gens mis à la porte? Why isn't seniority taken into account when folks are being WFA?
C'est de la question, c'est une excellente question. On sait que dans la fonction publique fédérale, l'ancienneté n'est pas prise en considération parce que à ce jour, nous, le syndicat, on n'est pas en mesure de négocier la dotation. Donc, c'est quelque chose pour lequel nous poussons, mais jusqu'à nouvel ordre, c'est l'employeur qui décide les modalités et selon l'employeur, ils ont décidé que l'ancienneté ne devrait pas tenir compte dans la sélection de postes, malgré le fait que vous avez plusieurs années de service et que vous compétitionnez contre une personne qui a peut-être moins d'années de service. Et donc, le critère, c'est toujours le mérite. Et donc, ça, c'est un outil de l'employeur. C'est la législation qui dit comme tel. Nous, les syndicats, on aimerait négocier, mais jusqu'à nouvel ordre, c'est ce qui s'applique dans ce contexte.
Merci beaucoup, Jérémy. Merci beaucoup, Dean. We're going to go back in English. De retour en anglais. Jeff wants to know, can you file a grievance against WFA?
On limited grounds, yes. If there's a discriminatory component, we can tie it to the collective agreement, the Canadian Human Rights Act. But to challenge a WFA action, we can't challenge the fact that the employer chose to reorganize the workplace. So in terms of recourse rights, at the end, an employee, if they're not selected for a position, if they chose to remain in the public service and and were not selected in the end, for those governed by the Public Service Employment Act, so the Core Public Service Administration, they would be able to file a complaint on the grounds that there was an abuse of authority in the way their situation, their layoff was handled. So it's an individual recourse, and it's for the Core Public Service. The CFIA has its own recourse mechanism. So does the CRA, because they don't fall under the Public Service Employment Act. But to answer your question, you can only challenge, again, if there's discrimination, or file a complaint with the Labor Board, Public Service, Labor Relations and Employment Board, if you're in the core public agency, on the grounds that your layoff constituted an abuse of authority.
Thank you so much, Jean, and thank you for your question, Jeff. Some of us really feel that they were targeted and past harassment at work that led to be affected and impacted by WFA. Could we raise such harassment and seek for compensation? To whom should someone speak to raise those concerns? Christine?
Can you repeat your question, Kat?
Yes. Somebody feels like they're a victim of harassment in the workplace, who they can raise that to, and is it something that they can seek compensation for through litigation or XYZ?
Yeah. In terms of harassment, the best way to kind of initiate an action with regards to that is to first speak to a steward or speak to an ERO to make sure that whatever is going on is addressed. In terms of compensation, that's very specific to the case and what's happening. Usually speaking, the goal is to restore the workplace, whether it be that the parties are no longer on the same team or whatnot, and how that may affect in WFA. It's so case and fact specific that I think this is best addressed on a one-on-one with the member reaching out to a steward or to an ERO, quite frankly.
Thank you, Christine. Someone wants to know what happens if you're on long-term disability when your position is WFA'd? Do the same timelines and options apply, or can you postpone a decision until you are ready to return to work?
That's a very good question, and one that we're getting quite frequently from folks on leave of different kinds, whether it be maternity leave or LTD and whatnot. Generally speaking, an employee on a protected leave, and by that I mean, on disability or maternity, parental leave, and I could go on, will still be told that they are affected. And I think Dean alluded to that earlier, where there would be, if not your director or DG reaching out to you directly to have a conversation, then at least by a letter sent by mail, which will inform you that your position is affected. The other piece that will continue to kind of run even though you're on a leave is if the employer is running a voluntary departure program, they will run that without any kind of pause with regards to employees on leave, mostly because it captures a broader kind of group as opposed to just that individual. And it really is just a chance for someone to say that they want to depart. Now, an employee on leave can choose to participate in VDP, or they can just wait. And usually it's when it ticks over to if there is a SURLO, that's where somebody on leave would have to have a conversation with their manager to pause the process. We are taking, and I say we, and I actually mean all the bargaining agents at the federal level have been in ongoing conversations with Treasury Board to make sure that they're providing departments with clear guidelines as to what's happening for individuals on leave to make sure that they're protected. And the position Treasury Board is currently taking and advising departments to take is that it should be on a case-by-case basis. We are very much pushing that the case-by-case basis be based on how the employee feels that they can participate in the furlough or not, if they want to suspend it until they're back, or whether they feel that they are able to participate. And that's because it's really dependent on the specifics of the individual. And we're saying that that decision should belong to the employee and not to the manager. And if there is no furlough and if the person's being made opting, then that very much, then the timelines freeze until you come back from your leave, at which point the clock can start running again.
Thank you so much. We are almost out of time, but Sean, I see a few folks in the Q&A that are raising the issue about the return to office announcement. Is that something that you can briefly speak to our members about before we wrap up? And
Sure, no problem. And we made an intentional choice not to bring RTO up today because WFA really is something that's affecting our members, and we know RTO was announced last week. My apologies to the members that the notice for this came out literally as I was finding out that you were going to be told 20 minutes later that the new mandate was coming in July. This decision, and if you've heard me in the media, I'm still kind of ticked off with that decision, and I think you are too. And it's definitely something that it's issue after issue. We said that even the Prime Minister in his own book said that he supports remote work and flexibility. We're meeting with the Treasury Board this week to discuss the implementation of this mandate. And, we are fully aware how this is impacting folks, and especially, this summer. The government is not ready, in my opinion, to take all of us into the office 4 days a week. I think it's an impossibility. I would ask you all to keep an eye on your inbox. We are going to be sending a short survey out to the members on RTO to inform the meetings we're going to be having with the employer. We're going to constantly be pushing for this change. And I want to say this, I'm going off script right now, but I want you folks to be talking to your MPs. I saw the posting by MP Fanjoy from Carleton riding. I saw an email this morning from a member that had forwarded me something from a Conservative member in Leeds Grenville. We need to build that pressure inside. The fact I have a Conservative and a Liberal member of Parliament pushing back on this, that's very key. And I'd ask all Canadians, and I know there's a lot of folks from Ottawa in this webinar, but everyone here should be reaching out to their MP to say this is wrong, and to indicate to them, exactly what MP Vanchoy said, is that this is not the way that we do this. Even the experts are telling us, the real estate experts are saying it's impossible. The fact that we have people that in industry, and the fact that we have regular Canadians that aren't even public servants that work 5 days a week, and they're saying that this is making my commute worse. This pressure is real, and we have to sustain it, because this should be something all Canadians have, is flexibility, and it should start with the public service. And we should be pushing back right now, because I know across this country, this is an issue that is present for everybody that has the ability to work. And for everyone in this room that does work on the front line, I want to thank you for the work you do. And I'm pretty sure there's some of your work that could be done remotely, and we need to look at how that is implemented also. But we're going to continue to push back at every level we can. The priority today was WFA, but RTO is just as important. And that our task force then for WFA is also going to be taking on RTO and making sure that it's all of PIP's approach and pushing back on this. And we want to make sure that, these bad decisions are stopped, and we really are pushing back, and we will continue to do that for you.
thank you so much, Sean. That's all the time we have for questions today. So thank you again to Sean, Stephanie, Eva, Dave, and Katie, to our subject matter expert, Christine and Dean and Michael, and to all the participants. Un grand merci à tous nos panélistes et à tous les participants au webinaire d'aujourd'hui. You'll find a link of all our WFA resources in the chat, including comprehensive FAQs, webinar recordings, our alternation platform, and who to reach out if you need help. We've linked our It Takes Expert campaign website, so be sure to check it out. There seems to be an issue with the survey in the link, but we'll get that fixed as soon as possible, so please check back when you can. We'll also be sending a follow-up email to all participants with the link we've shared in the chat and a recording of the webinar, so keep an eye out for the email in the coming weeks. Merci à tout le monde. Thanks, everyone. Wish you a good day.